My goal and my dream is that I can help women to be able to return to the essence of the ultimate ability to listen, to be able to listen to you, listen to, and not always your heart. I always say, until you heal, you have a contaminated heart. Because what's happening is that the intuition and the instinctual self really blends together. And we don't realize how much of life we live based on the conditioning, what we have learned, what we have been programmed to, and that you have that sense of, most people were raised with a sense of fight, flight, or fear. And it came from years and years of war, poverty, survival, just trying to get by, just trying to make it. So you live with the essence of having to do the things to just get by, to just make it, to just survive. And money falls into that in a big way. Women and the roles they play fall into it in a big, big way. That's just your job. That's just what we do. That's how we do things. And we become that. But even when we know the difference, when we say, well, this is not that day, you actually still live by it because you have this muscle memory. And your body stores those muscle memories. So does the uterus, those areas of you, your umbilical cord connection, I call it. Your connection to your mother, to her mother, to the ancestors that walked before, and you carry those stories, right down to even, we're not leaving the dads out of this, right down to the father stories and to the forefathers. And so all the way through. So the beauty of the divine connection is that they live beyond ego. They live beyond ego. And that is the beauty of when we connect to soul self and not self, not the essence of the spirit self, like that we create, the spirit of us, the character of us, the persona of us. When we live from a sense of soul self, is that you don't wait until you're in the dark to make your decisions. You don't have to hide things from people. You don't have to keep things secret. You don't make your biggest decisions in the dark out of fear. Or you don't make a decision that is impulsive in the dark time. You give yourself the time. And that is this beautiful full moon energy. And it is in Aries, which is exactly what I am. I'm actually born on April Fool's Day. So I am the fool. And as my healer said, you just really, truly, Corrie, you keep saying you can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. The fool really represents like the Aries in the row and the beginning of the deck. And I'm born on April Fool's Day. And so there's nothing happens to you in this lifetime by mistake. And as hard as that may seem to have to live with sometimes, it doesn't. But the decisions and the choices that we make are sometimes the decisions and the choices that we make based on the fact that we know we are, or that we believe we are a mistake. That we are a mistake. And that's a big thing of when you hear time and time again, like children, well, you weren't planned, we didn't plan on you, we didn't mean to have you, I didn't mean to give you that, I didn't mean to do that to you, I didn't mean to do that to you. Like you hear those things over and over and over. So was I in the wrong place? Was I in the wrong environment? Did I have the wrong parent? No, everything is so divine to us. Everything is so divine, and it's not by accident that we have a baby crying here today, and it's not my granddaughter. It's a little boy. And so a beautiful mom who is a jockey is staying with us for a few days, and we have a little man downstairs, a little guy, and he's following along with the heart of his mom and her journey. So my heart said, they need a place, and so they're here on this day when we're doing this. So we may have some noise, we have some distractions around us. You have to let all of that go, because life will be full of distractions and full of mistakes, what we call mistakes, but they're not mistakes. And everything, I'm just muting everybody, and everything is an opportunity. Just like my phone just popped back on, I'm going to get it turned off. Let me turn that off again. I don't want that in my world today. And so when I started to come through with this series, I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is a mistake. I don't want to start off talking about love and pain. That's the last thing that I want to do. But that's the biggest kind of part of us. And that's the biggest kind of part of our lives that we carry with us and truly starts to define us. And we don't often know how to distinguish beyond that. Because the last thing I wanted to do was talk about pain, because I keep saying I'm going to not ever talk about my pain again. But here I am back in the pain as it snowed on me last night. And so as I'm going to bring this in, is that we're going to start the series with don't hit snooze. Don't hit snooze. On the days you wake up and you think this is a mistake, I made a mistake. It was just like the days when you wake up when you're single and you might have slept with the wrong person, and then you had that whole saying that you hear. Tracy just got that chuckle. You know, you wake up and you go, oh, I should just do I chew my arm off, or do I just kind of crawl out of here? How do I get myself out of this situation that while I was numb and drunk, I got myself into? That's an extreme story, but we all carry those kind of stories, and you're uncertain of what to do because you don't want to have to face the reality. You don't want to have to face the day. Well, that in itself leads you carrying a life of pain, right? It's like you think about that forever. You carry that pain, you carry that with you. And so every single day for many of the years of my life, I woke up and I said to myself, can I do this today? If I could just chew my arms, my legs off, my skin off, everything that hurt, everything that was in pain, maybe I could live. Soul, if you could go live for me today, if the inside of me that has such joy and happiness could go live for me today, God, I would be such a happy person. But the minute my mouth opens, it's not happiness and joy that comes out. It's a reality. And that reality is really making a lot of people fucking uncomfortable. And I would hear myself say that, and I'm like, I'm a real pain to a lot of people in my life because they look at me and they feel pity, or they feel something, or they hear me grumbling, they hear me complaining, and I'm complaining. And I could hear myself complaining, but it was so unbearable. But in that sense of worrying, I would worry about how uncomfortable I was going to make everyone else around me by my pain, that I found myself not fueling up on what I needed. Love. And the pain came because I didn't have love. And because I didn't have love, I chose relationships that didn't have love. Everything in my life led to that. Then I started to believe I didn't have love anywhere in my life ever. Because how did I end up in this pain body? And who was I? So I took this to be my punishment. So coming in to start this series, I'm like, no, I've done all the healing work. I am there. Like I'm past them stories. And I am past the stories. But I live in pain. And that's a reality. And that's a truth. And so as much as some days you want to see the world beautiful and you want to see everything as perfect and wonderful, it leaves you with the ability, with a superpower, to be able to see the world real, which means that you have compassion for everything and everybody in this world because you know pain. And when you know pain, you know the ability to have love. And when you do the healing work on you and you give yourself the same thing you want to be able to give everyone else, you know the best of all worlds. You also know the worst of all worlds. You know the best and you know the worst. And when you know the best and you know the worst, you actually make your wisest choices when nobody is looking. I don't need validation. I don't need approval. I know that the decisions that I make is not the ones that are going to probably give me a shining star out in the world. But to be able to make your best and wisest decisions while in the dark, and that's what a new moon is. A new moon is the intentions that you set while in the dark, that are not impulsive, that are not based on the past, that are not a fear story, because your intentions can be a want that truly is about feeding and fueling still the pain stories that are holding you hostage and captive. Or they can be about what you know from the stories of pain that you would never want to inflict upon another, or that you want to see in the world. So your drive your push becomes to be a part of what is needed, not so much of what is wanted. What is needed and not what is wanted. And so in that, you may have to walk a painful journey, but it doesn't mean you are in pain. It means you are setting yourself free. To break free means that you will have to do some of the things that are a little tougher, a little stronger. And it took me right back to finding my awakening card in my new deck of Oracle cards, and how our attitudes show up. When we're hitting snooze on our lives, our attitudes show up, right? We have these shitty attitudes. We get down, we kind of get picking on people, or we think we're going to conquer the world and we're going to be better than people. We have these little little attitudes, or we have looking down on our feet, shoulders down, the world is against me, the world hates me. It's all an attitude, and it all takes us back in time, right? It all returns us into the essence of time. And so that whole setting intention from the attitude self of us leaves us making some unwise choices and decisions. My everyday goddess work, everything that is about me is, I don't give a rat's ass about what the goddesses of the past ever did. I don't need to go study until that I forget the real world exists. I have a love for this world that we live in today. And most of all, I have a love for the women who live in this world today. So learning and discovering more about what is going to be of service for the women of today is what brings me to my place of love, passion. Because what the biggest pain came from was watching women abandon themselves. I spent 30 years in the beauty industry. I spent a lifetime with a mother who didn't know she existed, but put on a big face that everyone thought she would have. And all because everything of who she was as a young girl, as a woman, was ripped away from her. I carried those generations of pain. She reflected the pain stories onto me. She made me to be afraid. She made me to kind of not in her intention to, but she made me not knowing who I was and what I carried. And so those stories leave you with these attitudes. So in reverse, so the Everyday Goddess Oracle cards is about what a goddess really means to me, is a woman who has the ability to walk in her truth. And her truth don't mean she's made of rainbow and sunshine and butterflies every day. It means she is honest. She is authentic. She is being true to her, and she's making her decisions from a place that is not impulsive to the fear stories of the past. And if I can help one woman to be able to not make a decision from the fear stories of the past leading her way, but as a resource tool to where she has been, so that she doesn't sell her soul, herself to another, so that she builds a beautiful relationship with herself, then I feel like I've accomplished something. And that's what these cards started with, a journey. And Delilah is the awakening, and she's a 9, and she is the Trinity in double whammy, double power. So when you get to know yourself, you know of yourself. When you go through an awakening is not, oh, I know I'm worthy. Awakening is when you travel to the depth of your darkness. That in your darkness, in the darkness of you, you pick up the pieces of you and you say, yeah, I did that. I was the one. I did that. I allowed that. I was a part of that. I contributed to that. Those places where you travel and you say, I did that. But not to beat yourself up, but to say, now, but why did you do that? Why did you allow that? What was the story that led your way into that? Or what were you trying to justify, to explain, trying to fix, trying to put another Band-Aid on before you walked in there? What was that? And with that, what you instantly do is you feel for you. You start to have compassion for you. You start to feel the essence of you. Because it's a whole different language to understand soul language. That you're no longer saying, God, I did some horrible things in my life. It's like, yeah, I did some real shitty freaking things, but I wasn't her. She's not me. She's everything of what I was trying to protect. Everything that I was trying to defend. Everything thought I was fighting for. Because you start this so early in life. You may have been about 6 months old when your mother threw you in the arms of somebody and said, here, you got to like that person. Here, you got to go to this daycare. You're going to have to adjust to that. And that starts a new journey. That starts a new journey for that innocence, for that little child, because the vulnerable little self is now exposed in a world where you have a whole lot of people that look like adults, that are wearing the skin of adults, but are so emotionally and spiritually immature that their decisions and what they do in their darkness, in what is shadowed of them, what is shadowing their good parts of them, their true good personality, that when they hear the chatter of, you shouldn't do that, but I do it anyway. The world is full of that. You know, that's probably not good for you. Yeah, but I'm going to try it anyway. Those type of things that then lead to something that lives inside of us. It is called anger. And then that anger that lives inside of you becomes a pain. And when the pain becomes real, the pain becomes the virus of the mind. It becomes the things that overpower you, that lead you making two decisions. It's the same thing with living that secretive life of, you know, it's like, I want everybody to share with me, but I'm going to pop that big surprise on people of, you know, it's like everything that I'm getting. It's like that master manipulator of your mind is that I don't want anybody to steal me. I don't want them to steal my stuff. So I have to hide it all. And so there's times I try that because I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's what I should do. And then I'm like, oh, for God's sake, what are you doing, Corrie? Like, you can't even keep your mouth shut. Like, you can't even stay quiet long enough because you want to share everything with everybody. And I stopped trying to do that for a long time, and it's not possible. So I just share. It is what it is, because what's meant to be yours is never to be taken from you. And that's a truth. So what that means is that soul essence of you, that soul personality of you, that soul connection, that individuality of you, that piece of you, really is never being taken from you. The only person ripping it from you is you in those choices and those decisions that we make, right? And so when Delilah came upright, when Delilah rose up to the occasion and she came up to the top, is that she recognized. So if anyone knows of Delilah in the Bible, in the biblical stories, and if you've been around me for a long time, you'll know that I just, in my dark night of the soul, I took the journey through the biblical stories. And I was channeling through the incredible, and I didn't know it at the time, the incredible Alan Watt. And I didn't know him in human world. I only knew of him through spirit. And he channeled through me some incredible things that I just don't even have words for yet in my life. But and Dr. Wayne Dyer. So as I channeled this through and got this information, I found Delilah. And I heard of Samson. And you hear of the story of Samson and Delilah, but nobody tells Delilah's story. Everybody tells Samson's stories. And have you ever noticed that with the Bible? There's all kinds of writings about the men, but the women, there's very, very little. And I've been complaining about that forever. And then 4 days ago, my partner says, Corrie, look at this new book just came out by this woman who just wrote about all the stories of the women. But every story is not from their mouth. No matter what it is, it's still not a story from their mouth. It's not their truth. It's a story that we're being told. But the shadows, right? And from that, so Delilah was this woman who truly fell in love with her family. And this is where love and pain and hurt all starts to blend together. She loved her family so much that she would do anything for her family. Anything. Her family was going without food. They needed, they had no money. They were starving. She met a man who she also fell in love with, that she cared for. She really cared for him. She knew he had this long hair that was his power. He had something that was he was told his whole life was his power. Somebody wanting to take down that man offered her a pile of money, a lot of money, to cut off this man's hair, knowing full well that she would ruin his life. She would take that. She's in the middle of the scale. What decision does she make? Does she sell? Does she sell out her soul, right? Does she feed her family with this money? Or does she go and do what they ask? And she knows that this man protects the community, he protects the people, and that the one wanting to do this is wanting to take the agent, the protector, out of service so that they can cause more harm do a takeover. She chose her family because she wasn't thinking that in the big picture, her family would also be destroyed. That in the big picture, her family were still a part of the community. Her family were still a part of everything else. So by her saying yes, she lost faith. She had a fear story inside of her because she had a crippling fear of losing her family, crippling fear of losing that part of her. And so when we truly believe in the ability for someone to take those things away from us, or that we're going to lose those, is that we don't stay connected to the soul self. We don't listen to the soul language. We go into the human, what we call one-dimensional living. We believe the material world that we live in is providing everything that we need, including our happiness, our safety, everything else. We don't have faith in the action that we take that leads us towards miracles. Because the action that we take will lead us towards miracles. It may seem as if it is a pain, it is hurting, it is suffering in the moment, but sometimes that's what's being asked of us in order to allow room for us to get out of the way to allow for miracles to happen. But instead, she cut off the hair of this man. When she cut off the hair of this man, she knew full well that she had made a choice, a decision that she could not take back. And no matter how many sorries she yelled out, those sorries didn't matter. Because the damage was now done. And now the next story, the next cycle, the next series would have to play out. But would she get an opportunity to redo? Yes. Because we all have the ability to correct our course. And it started with that one man who did forgive her. But he didn't just, she thought if it was just the hair, because she was told a story, right? But it wasn't. They blinded him. They took away all ability. But there's one thing he never lost, faith. So blind, without what he thought was his power, something rose inside of him, an anger, a love for his people that was so powerful that he would not let his people be taken. And I'm not Christian by faith like that, but this is how these stories resonate with me. And I'm like, I can't repeat them from the Bible. This is how they tell me. This is how they tell me themselves as I channel them through. That through this energy, that his faith, his soul self, his soul language was so powerful. He knew the one thing he could never do was give up. No matter how much pain he was in, he had to do the right thing for the right reasons well in the dark. Well in the dark, he had to make an intention. He could have sat down and did nothing. He could have went into one-dimensional living of misery and suffering and said, I am in so much pain. I don't want anyone to take care of me. I am useless. I am no good. I'm all of those things. Do you see what we do? We're both a Delilah. We're both a Samson. Like, we all play with these roles. And we're also the one who's also the temptation to somebody else sometimes when we want people to do what we want them to do. So we play every one of these characters that we're now speaking of. We all have been there. And so as I'm telling this story, we all tend to want to go to the ones that are in the main characters. What about everyone else? What about the people that caused the biggest problem at all? We're sometimes that, right? We've been there because of our hurt, because of the things that we get caught up in the stories that we believe to be true. Like, you know, the cancel culture stuff. Like the man they put on the cross, the same thing. So it's the same story. And so I take cancel culture back to the Bible, back to the man on the cross. And so this truly then takes you to the essence, the energy of looking at this man who spoke from soul and this woman who spoke from the personas, from the roles, from the characters. She was the daughter. It's my job to care for my parents. That's what I'm here for. I have to do something to help my family. So in doing something to help her family, she didn't go speak to the person she could trust. She didn't go to the place and say, hey, you know what? They're offering me this. They're trying to get me to do this. We need to do this together. She tried to do it alone. She tried to stay alone. She tried to figure it out alone. She caused more and more disarray and disruption by constantly trying to do it on her own, by holding all of that inside so deep And that story became such a manifesting. So in his pain, he jumped up, he conquered the whole place, and he took out the enemy, right? But he still knew he would have to live his life. But what he discovered was that the human world had told him his power was in his hair. What he discovered was that the power is within. And she discovered the ability to be able to know that she would have to carry that shame until she was told to let it go, to free herself of the shame, to now know that she learned a valuable lesson about the decisions that you make in the dark, about the choices that you make. And forgiveness is the most powerful thing that we have. It don't mean we forget, because if we forget, we will repeat it again. So you're never running away from your past. You're never getting away from your past. You can never escape it. And that's a big problem with us trying to be the goddess of our lives, trying to be these women, trying to be this everything, trying to be this so-called enlightened being, is that we feel we have to free ourselves of everything. No, we have to accept it. We have to accept it. When we start to accept those parts of us, I had to accept this pain body, but I don't accept the pain. I don't accept that the pain is mine to own. I accept that I have a body that has a really big ass trigger. And it reminds me whenever I start to get so far away from myself, or when I'm not showing myself love, compassion, or kindness, or I'm making choices and decisions that are not in alignment with my truth, or when I'm running out of energy and I can't get off the couch, that means I am done. And when I wrote More Than Existing, my statement was, I am done. I'm finding joy and happiness no matter the cost. Well, that means to find joy and happiness, some days I'm going to have to waste a full week, what we call waste, a full week sitting on the freaking couch doing nothing. And who was told them things were lazy? Who was told those things are not acceptable? That you shouldn't do those things. You shouldn't take that time for you. And what happens when you don't, right? And what happens when you don't take that time for you? You build up the Delilah stories. You get caught in your head. You get all these things going on, and then you keep trying to do stuff. So then if you're even cooking a meal, well, I'm sorry, you're eating fucking McDonald's today because I don't have what it takes to cook for you. Or you're half-ass in your life, and you're accepting half-ass truth. You're convincing yourself of the truth to just say, oh, I just did this today, so you're just existing. Right? We're halving our life. We're living by half of us, not all of us. We're living by half of us. We even got that, in spirituality, we talk about our feminine, our masculine side. We talk about our right brain, our left brain. We talk about, it's all one brain. It's all one body. What makes it all so different is that we like to divide things. We like to separate things. We like to have something to blame, something to not. We like to have light. We like to, because we have light and we have dark. We like to put things in one pile into another pile. So we divide up things. That's how we end up divided in our thoughts. That's how we end up divided in groups. That's how we end up divided in the world, because it's this, it's that. But right down the very middle of us is this one line. It's a thread. And I think it laughs at me every day. And it's called source. And it connects you to your breath. It keeps you alive. It keeps the system going. It keeps us plugged in, tapped in. And in that place is where a healed sense of your instinctual self becomes able to fully trust the intuition. And the intuition is a part of the soul language. You find yourself, when you are connecting to soul language, using words you never thought you'd use in your life. Like when I was writing up a new statement about myself, I called myself divinely dignified, and I almost fell over on the floor. Because dignified, I probably would never have used. My daughter called me elegant, and I almost fell over. I would never had called myself elegant. I would never had called myself divinely dignified. But I spend a lifetime channeling Jesus. I spend a lifetime connected to Source. I've rode a faith train since I was little. And these are things that are true to my personality, true to my soul, to the core of me. And in the dark, the only person that I've made unhealthy choices and decisions for was me. Anything to do with anyone else, I will do the right thing for the right reasons, and it will cost me everything. But I will do them anyway, because I stand to fight for those that, for all of humanity, in such a way, not divided. So when I get connected into these stories about, and I have to teach feminine, masculine, and it makes sense to understand it, but to let it go and to free yourself, to come back to the middle, changes everything. So where Delilah came, it was Delilah found herself. She's still got some stories. She's not looking right at us, but she's on top. She's realizing that everything of her past is about roots. It's like the tree. It roots you. It grounds you. It gives you something to hold you on the days when storms are coming. You have been there before. You have previously experienced it. You have walked this journey. You know the journey. Your soul self tries to tell you the languages of, this wasn't your first rodeo. This wasn't your first life. You experienced this. Maybe you were Delilah. Maybe you were Mary Magdalene. Maybe you were one of the Marys. Maybe you were one of those. So you did have all the tools that you need. You have experienced it in the past. Maybe you were Isis. Maybe you were Freya. Maybe you were Joan of Arc. They're all fairy tales because we are not speaking to the women themselves personally. I channel them. They tell me a lot of stuff. And I know how real they are. But they're not just real in a fantasy world. They're real because what they are the spirit essence of us. They're the spirit essence of us, Lilith. Lilith only became a bad person because she made a choice to choose to not sell her soul, not to sell the integrity of her, the dignity of her. And by making a choice to walk away and walk towards love, she had to pay the ultimate price. But it wasn't going to lead her in a life of pain. She was going to let everyone else create painful stories around her. But she wasn't living in pain. She was living in the hurt of everything else, of how we can sell a woman out so easily out of stories that we believe. Out of things that we hear, how we create those, right? And so they turned her into feet of an owl, right? The claws, sharp claws, and these wings, and she became this horrific woman of the demons. She became a demon. So our pain becomes the demons in us. It becomes the hurt in us. It becomes the things that we carry so deep within us. And as you can see, I have not looked down at the notes because this is not in the notes. This was not in the plan. So Delilah, back to Delilah. In her card, when she was created by the artist Amelia Richard, she created, looks like lilies instead of lotus flowers. And one woman, only one ever, pointed out to me that the cards had a flaw. They were wrong, and I should correct them. And I said, well, that was a good little attitude test for you. Because now you have to go home and look in the mirror of why you're so determined that that be a lotus flower. Are you in the story of Delilah? Are you in the story of Corrie? Are you in the story of Amelia? So who are you to tell us that what we put as flowers was wrong? What does that tell you about you and what you have discovered about you? And I said it in a very loving way, of course. I'm like, you do know I'm a channel. I'm a mystic. I'm here to make you think. I'm here to make you think for yourself, because the last thing that I want to do, or what anyone should be doing to you, is thinking for you. No one should be thinking for you. Nobody should be making up your mind for you. Hold you, hold a space for you, be present with you, guide you, teach you what I know, but not to make up your mind. And so these are the creation. So my artist, Amelia, I gave full rights to create how she's seen my vision. I channeled it. I give her sketches, and I gave her full right to create how she's seen it, to create her story as well. That's the beauty of being accepting and loving of everyday goddesses. So these flowers from your Delilah moment, from your awakening, from your lotus flower moment, when you truly awaken to say, okay, I cannot be defined by my past, but I can correct the course of the things that are still entrapping me, and I can use the past as a really good beacon of when I'm being triggered of everything I don't want to do again. Because the hurt, the pain is a response. It is the soul responding to your actions that you're about to take. It's reacting to the actions that you are acting upon. It's telling you to ask yourself some powerful questions. What is it that you want to create? What is it that you want to see happening in your life? So from here, she's got hers are tiger lilies. Hers are tiger lilies. And in my story, my daughter's last name is Lily. And people say, oh, is that her middle name? I'm like, no, that's her last name. I'm one of those mothers. I'm one of those mothers that has a kid with a different last name. I'm one of those single mothers because that judgment was laid upon you. But that used to come in such a defensive way that the pain of that conversation was me reflecting back up onto me, my own judgment that I didn't settle for an unhealthy relationship. That I could have just stayed because he had some good qualities. And I could have stayed in that relationship and stayed content, stayed just doing those things. Or I could have made choice and did the tough things and walked some painful journeys to be able to rise up and above, to do the right thing for the right reason, to raise a child alone, to do the things that was needed, to be this, to not to sell myself, to not to lose myself, to know that I couldn't negotiate on what happiness and joy was going to be. And I wasn't going to have a lotus flower moment. I was going to have a lily, a daisy, a pansy, whatever it was going to be. Because in order to find peace and contentment, you have to stop lying to you. And you have to start becoming honest with you. Everybody who asked me that question wasn't out to put a dagger in me. Everyone who asked me about being a single mom wasn't trying to point it out to me. Everyone who was saying something about my daughter having a separate last name wasn't my enemy. That person in between that we spoke about in Delilah's story, we're that to us. We become that enemy. And everything we keep trying to run from is that so-called enemy. So we make the choices and decisions. Sometimes I'm making it from over here. Sometimes you're making it from over there. So sometimes you're in the Delilah story, sometimes you're in the Samson story. But you're never ever in one, you're never ever in that middle. When you come home to the middle and you live from the middle, you don't impulsively make those choices and decisions based on the fact that you are defending, justifying, criticizing. You're not doing any of this. You're looking at the big picture of your life. You're looking at the big journey. What is it that's right there? And when you can set an intention to let go of having a vision of what your future looks like, when you can let go of the vision or the assumption of what you assume somebody else to be, or what you think their intentions and their motives are, how you read their words, how you judge their statements, and how we judge each other on pictures and videos on social media and how you see each other, right? When we can let go of all of that, everything is a reflection of me. And I bring everything home, and that's my joy, that's my hope, is that I can help everyone bring it home to here, to self. And I always say it's like a cross, right? It's like we're at a crossroad. And I always tap here because it's in your thymus. And most people don't even hear about your thymus. No one even talks about your thymus. It's right here. It's between the heart and the throat. It's between the heart and the throat. And you have this. And this has God brain and human brain. And in order for God brain to be able to speak for you, so soul, self, voice, to be able to speak with you, not always for you, but with you. It walks with you. It lives with you. It is your partner. It is the twin sister of Lilith. It is the parts of us that knows the ability to make a decision of this or that, right? It's like that ability. It walks with us. It is that part of us, but it comes from right here, because your heart and the brain of the heart has been a part of the human experience. So when I speak about muscle memory, what is the heart? So the heart has broken pieces, broken fragments. It has memories. It has trying to live in the memory of your mother, trying to be your mother, trying to recreate the family life, or the opposite, trying to be anything but your mother, trying to do it better than your mother did it. Well, your mother did it the best that she could. The difference was she probably didn't have the support that we have, the world that we have. And so the world is real. And from right here, there's a real world. But we start to clump. We clump our emotions. We clump our God connection. We clump our, and it's like if we have Christianity or if you have spirituality, whatever you have that you believe in, you clump it all together. And so the emotions and the past history and what you experience in the past just becomes one big snowball of magnetic energy that's just floating around like this. And then you're trying to decide and decipher. So you just reach in. It's like the unfolded laundry. And you keep saying, I got no clothes, but you never put the laundry away. Right? Got no clothes, but but it's all piled up. And you reach in and you grab what you reach in, you grab the comfortable. You reach in and grab. So even in a drawer, you take the comfortable. You take what you wear the most, right? You reach for the comfortable. So you reach for what's comfortable, and what's comfortable is often connected to an emotional story. And most times, sadly, that emotional story leads you back into unhealthy situations, because it's amazing how you can convince yourself that that uncomfortable is comfortable. And so you return to everything of the essence of what was that you kept trying to get away from, what you kept trying to leave. So when I start to create all of this work, it was about I learned to speak to my pain. I had to find the original source. The pain in my body, the pain in your muscles is not the original source. It's deep inside the muscles, and you had to get to the original source. What I found was in a 3-year-old. And it had nothing to do with my mother. She was 3. And that little 3-year-old of me truly found her way. And so all of the visual stories that I had and the repeat of programming that I'd been told about my relationship between me and my brother and all the hurt, that hurt that of him teasing me was just piled on top of the original source of the hurt. And so everything that everyone else did was then, it was always putting salt in the wound of something that could never be communicated. And so I blamed everything else, projected it out everywhere else. But the truth was, it was all in the little 3-year-old that had so blocked it out, that was so there. So was she Lilith, or was she Lilith's sister? Which one was she? And who was she? And was she really that bad of a person? That somebody who had hurt in their heart would decide to project that hurt onto her? I spent a lifetime apologizing for that and not even knowing what it was. So when you start to speak to the pain, you start to ask your pain, what is my truth? Who am I before this pain? Who am I before my stories? Who am I before my emotions? Who am I before my relationships? What am I? what I am. What am I? Weird is the first thing came up for me. But that's been the trailing story of my life. And I love being weird. And I remember being weird. I remember being 2 years old and being weird. But the weird is also what made me stand out. My light made me be a victim to a circumstance that was out of my control, because it was like, pick her. Her light is bright. Those with a dark light, or their light darkened, will go after bright lights, because they're always trying to feed and fuel their light off of bright lights. So your whole life, so all of this pain that I have now is I live with a constant body that people are always trying to feed off my light. But back then I didn't ask for it. The difference is now I embrace it, because I have there's more than enough light to go around. And if my light is a reflection for somebody else to see the light in theirs, then I have done my job right. I have done something right. I'm not here to hide. I'm not here to be blended. And I'm not here to blame that one circumstance, because now I work with people who are just like the man who stood in front of me at 3 years old. Because he also had an original pain. He also had a hurt. He had something that went deeper. I don't forget. But if everyone becomes a reflection of your original pain and your original hurt, then everybody will be your enemy. But you will always be an enemy to yourself. Always. He's since dead. And I feel like he actually has come back to help me through this process. Because when they return to spirit, they remember their soul language, because they know what they've done. They know what the human experienced while it was there. But they use it to transmute it. So when I talk about taking the anger behind your pain and you transmute it to love, that's what happens when we leave Earth. That's how that's how heaven is created. You get freed. There's no judgment. There's no nothing. You get freed of that, so that you can feel only love. So if we can free ourselves here, if we can show that love here, then we can create a heaven on earth. We can live from that place, transmuting your words, your thoughts, your actions of anger, of any of the things that take you farther away from the middle, allows it to transmute to here, to give it over, to hand it over, means you first face the truth. You see your truths, and then you take them and you send them off, and you send them out. And by sending them out is that you don't hold yourself responsible for what was not yours. You don't hold the versions of you from all previous lifetimes or this lifetime as having to be responsible to keep holding the burdens, the pain, to keep crucifying yourself, to keep paying the debt. There is no debt to be repaid. There's an ending. And there's such a loving journey in letting things end. Because what you're doing when we allow those endings to happen is that you are taking the journey towards walking home to you, to walking into love, to walking into light, to becoming the truth of you. And so you find yourself making your way into this place of no longer hitting the snooze. As a teenager, I used to hit the snooze and hit snooze and hit snooze and hit snooze and hit snooze. Now I have a little Yorkie that is my alarm clock that there's no hitting the snooze. I have a ragdoll cat that gets up and hits me on the head at 5:30 in the morning. I have a choice to go back to bed, or I have the choice to get up and start my day. And just because the clock says it's 5:30, and that my body often would say, well, that's when you sleep, that is prime time to allow healing to be bestowed. Because do you know why? Because I get to be in relationship to me. In sleep, I'm only with spirit. When we're awake, we are in relationship with self. When there's no one else awake, when there's nothing else happening, when everything is silent, you have the opportunity to sit in relation with you, to be present with you. That's when you have the opportunity to look at where you have been, to observe it, to see that we have this, what we call Dolores. And Dolores has the three, right? It's the goddess of Dolores. And the goddess of Dolores really truly takes you to this power of the three. There's three sisters combined under one name, right? It's like the power of three. So we have three of us all into one, but we're all one. So return to the oneness is all in that middle line. That you truly have to know pain, grief, distress, sorrow, those type of things are going to always exist. You also have anguish, alone, being alone, loneliness, those things. They all clump together as a pain story, as a hurt story. I'm so lonely, but what is the truth beyond lonely, right? So embarking upon this relationship alone in the 5:30 in the morning, you realize how little time you ever have alone. As long as you are on this earth, you are never alone. When you leave this earth, you are never alone. So you start debunking what is now has been programmed to you, or what you even, not what other people even programmed to you, how you programmed yourself to believe. How you even programmed yourself, because the way we programmed ourselves was to become the shadow of us, was to become everything else. And then we refer to ourselves as being into something else. But then when you start to come up, and so when you start to rise into the spirit of the mysteries, and you start to get into the mysterious, and you start to look at Quizzo, I think her name is Quizzo's, and then you start to look at this beautiful, there's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of mystery inside of you. Why wouldn't you want to become an explorer? Why wouldn't you want to start searching around you? Why wouldn't you want to know why you're in pain? And I don't mean for a doctor to find out. I mean for you to discover. And that takes you back to thymus. That takes you back to here. The first place we have to start to discover us is to connect. We have to connect to these forgotten pieces of us that have such power. This ties into your hormones. This ties into your immune system. If the thymus is not operating properly, no, neither is your immune system. Autoimmune. And this connects into the glands. This connects into what's happening up here that truly becomes like, we turn it into like a frozen statue. Because the human chatter and the human control and the human being in charge truly turns in everything that it don't want to have to face. It freezes it. It turns it to the past. It turns it into something that is not there. Whereas that God light, that beacon, is like it's connected to your third eye. Your third eye starts to awaken for you because your human eyes tell you lies. What you see is not always a truth. What you hear is a truth of a person, right? It's true to the situation. It's true to a certain time. It's true for a period of time. It is truth till here and till there. Like there's so much that is so different. So your human eyes may see something and you can convince yourself of anything. But when you start to listen from the soul self, it's impossible to lie. And I've never been a good liar to lie to anyone else, but I can definitely tell myself a whole lot of lies sometimes about why somebody is a good person, and all I got to do is to see the good in them. Not my job to sometimes see the good in somebody. Because I have the ability to see spirit, I see beyond the reflection, I see what is possible, but it's not our job to keep trying to bring that forth in somebody. So from here, if your immune system is getting low, if you're feeling weaker, if you're feeling like you're not yourself, well, you're not yourself. You're away from yourself. You're away from home. The way home is right here. And so right here is where we start this connection, where we start to connect. We have to oppose ourselves. We have to oppose our own thoughts, our own beliefs, in order to find the core truth of us, to get to the core essence of us. And I was just teaching my level 4 students about colors and the color wheel. I'm a color specialist. I know I can see beyond color. So I know every single thing to use of color and how to use color. And how the color wheel is no different. You just got to be willing to cross the house. You got to be willing to oppose yourself. You got to be willing to cancel out parts of your story. You got to be willing to look in a new from fresh eyes, from a new perspective. Change the lenses on your eyes. Change the lens of the eye color that you're looking out of. Right? So just imagine putting like little shutters over your eyes so that you can look differently. And so to oppose all that the three of the Doloreses was bringing in, that they're there to be the goddess that brings forth, that brings in the stories. It's not that they were bringing it in out of hate or wanting to harm a woman. Is that a woman given the news that they know is going to hurt another woman. The given the news of, say, you know, on this weekend, I was sitting down with my dear friend and a call came in that her son had just died. And we were sitting on my deck. And so to have that call come in, it takes someone to have deep compassion and love for you to pass on those messages. You want it to come from someone who loves you dearly. You want it to come from someone who's going to say, my heart hurts giving you this message, and you know it's real. Not someone who's discounting the situation or experience that is now forever changing your life. So when you're that person to you, when you cross to you and you cross over to then having to oppose yourself with the good thoughts, then you have to become the goddesses of joy. You have to become the spirit of essence of joy, of pleasure. But what kind of pleasure are we pleasuring? Are we pleasuring the pain? Because love is nothing. And pain is just a word. It's everything else that goes with it, that ties into it, that makes it something. Your body knows hurt. It knows when it is hurting. So if you can oppose it and stop saying to yourself, oh God, why am I in so much pain? What in my life is bringing this much attention to this pain? What in my life is bringing this forth to me? And by asking those questions, what you're doing is you're now starting to connect from here to here. From here to here. Because you know you can't trust your mind. You can't trust your head all the time and the thoughts, well, I think it's this and I think I need to do this, and it's no. I feel the essence. I feel the essence. And so when the goddess herself starts to truly awaken to a truth, is that she starts to really ask herself, what is happening? What is happening out there I'm taking personal? What is happening in my life that is causing me to feel this way? What am I doing that is out of alignment to my truth? Who would I be without this pain? Who would I be without this pain story? Because how's it working for me? Because we're also a master manipulator. So when we become a victim to our circumstance, a victim to our story, we become a master manipulator of our own truth. Because then we don't have to do the hard stuff sometimes if we can use the excuse. Attitudes and excuses are like expectations. They all come from the same place. Most people don't know unless I tell them that I live in a body that is full of pain. Because it's not an excuse for the life that I live. It's the drive for the life I know I'm here to live. Because it's not holding me hostage to everything that I let go prior. It is the projection and direction that I now know that I have to walk to be able to go that way. So if the feet hurt, the mind hurts, the body hurts a little bit, it is being activated by the biggest and most beautiful pill that I can give it, love. Because the moment we numb it with everything else is the moment that we're unable to face, to deal, we keep running. So it's the exact same thing when we pretend everything is fine when it is not. When we keep putting another mask on, when we keep fluffing up, when we keep trying to perfect it, when we keep trying to make it perfect. That trying to make everything perfect, trying to perfect it, trying to bring it all together, not doing this till it's perfect, can't do that, I gotta perfect my life, I gotta make my life like this, da 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 da. All the same story. Because it's the same thing. And then if we say, well, I would never take anything that numbs my life. Well, you're doing everything to numb your life. You're doing everything to avoid the things that we have to face. And I'm not saying for everyone to jump on the board of, going off any medications you're on. Don't do that. But it's the body speaks to you and tells you the things that you need to put your focus into and what medicine is needed. The medicine that is needed is called love and self-love, but it's called unconditional, which is almost impossible for the human. It is extremely and so easy for the world outside of us. That happens like this. That's nothing. It's like unconditional love into us. Yes, absolutely. You need my help. You need my guidance. They don't ask us what we did wrong, why we're doing it, how did you get in pain, where'd your pain come from. It's not like going to a doctor where you feel like you're being like criticized and you feel like when you're told, well, I can't find nothing wrong with you. Those type of things. I don't see it. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Right? Just like our spirit, just like our soul self, just like our faith, just like fear. Those energies and what we do with it. And so when you start to look in at the pain and you speak to the pain with love and compassion, with unconditional love, doesn't matter how you got here. It don't matter how I end up here. It doesn't matter. What matters is how can I be of service to all of this today? How can I move beyond this pain story? How do I take myself into a new, and how, what do I need to do to stop, to not be so in the need to perfect it? Because those things that we try to perfect is actually making our choices and decisions from the dark. It's us making our choices and our decisions from the dark. Control, setting intentions. I'm so in control of my life. I want it to happen. I want it to look just like this. I want to own this. I want to have this. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. What happens when you don't get it next year? You just fed the pain. Feed the love. Feed the love is feeding the light. And you feel the light, feed the light, you're feeding, fueling the whole essence of everything that you embody. And when you feed the light, what you're doing is you are giving it unconditional. What is needed for healing is unconditional love. And to find unconditional love for people who even hurt us is hard. It doesn't mean our human is not going to have its thought of it, or it's going to make it okay. Don't get me wrong. That is not a journey that I don't believe we're here to take. Because or else we're not going to hold other people accountable either. What we're doing is we're rejecting that it is ours to own. You're rejecting that that is yours to carry. When somebody lays their stuff onto you, what they are doing, they're fueling their light by laying their dark onto you, so that they feel like they've done something accomplished, like they're doing something that makes them feel better, whether it's their ego, whether it's their ill mind, whatever it is, they're doing that. So they're giving onto you. So when we do that to another, we unconsciously and unawarely, we do it because we are programmed to it. We don't know any better. We're raised that way, or you've seen it, or you experience it. We experience it in the world because we're taught that it is normal. Loving yourself means that you can lash everything out on everyone else. No, because eventually something is going to happen that person may go through such a pain, or they may do something that then you putting that words onto them, you don't want to have to live with that. The best way to free yourself of those things, in the way of knowing that we're going to, is to forgive yourself for believing you are responsible for carrying it, for looking back at the versions of you. by seeing who you were, but by also knowing that every time that somebody did that, every time that happens, doesn't mean that it's permanently here to stay on top of you. Just because someone, hurt you, or just because somebody said something that made you feel hurtful, it doesn't mean that it's actually darkening you. It means you're taking ownership of it. So even now, if I get stuff thrown at me, I'm saying, yeah, no, I reject that's mine. I take responsibility for mine, but I reject what is not mine, because I can't carry anything else, because I'm in body and love and light, so that this body can heal. Because I believe in miracles, and I believe there will be a day when there's a possibility I will live fully pain-free. But as long as they need me to walk this journey, I have to feel this, to know this, to create this work. So I don't set an intention that next year I'll be pain-free. I don't make intentions that I can't hold myself accountable for, that I can commit to, because then it's another lie, then it's more pain. So everything becomes an awareness. Everything is about the awareness that you start to create, everything that you live from. So when I speak and I channel through here. Everything comes, you'll see me do this a lot. If you watch me, you experience my work, you'll see me often doing this. I'm talking as I speak. I'm connecting as I speak. Because there's such a trust in trusting the unknown. Every single second of our day is an unknown. But when we believe that we are responsible, we're in control, or that we are guaranteed our tomorrows, or that, we live with that sense of, well, we're here to live, and I'm going to live. But when you are unknowing of what is coming next, you have to know that your biggest power is in this very single moment. So your future is not the worry. Future is not the place where you invest everything into. Right here, right now. Healing has to be done right here, right now. Owning who you are, walking in your truth, right here, right now. Finding it right here, right now. Not trying to prove somebody wrong, not trying to be right, not trying to be anything, just being. Just being. Not wanting someone to pay, not wanting someone to validate, to justify, why it happened. To just be. And so we are going to work this through a little bit in a moment here. And so when we look at the embodiment of light, we look at that sense of the immutable. It's permanent. It's innate. It's this innate, unmovable. And no matter how much we like to think that, we took over control of our bodies and we're doing that, this innate God consciousness that we have, that connects us here, that connects us here, that connects us here, that connects us here, connects us here, 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 here. It's like it's all through you. It is in every single joint of your body, because you have these meridians, you have these minor chakras energies, you have all of this place that has little balls of light. And the reason why they're there is because they help the body, or else you would not be able to move. You move forward. Your body moves. So every day when you say, I can't move, that's a lie. Every day when you say, I can't get myself out of this, or I can't, that's not true. Because your body still moves. I have a friend who lived alive, and I know Teresa knows this person. I have a friend who lived alive in a dead human body for over 20 years. And the only thing moved was his eyes. And he was trapped in a body. His soul self still lived in a paralyzed body. He was non-existent in the ability from being an active, play ball, happy-go-lucky person. And when he was in a car accident and he ended up with brain damage, everything went of what we would have known as him, because we couldn't hear him talk and because he couldn't move. So everybody believed he was dead, he was gone, he was. But I used to always say, he talks to me. I can hear him. He's very alive in there. Stop speaking about him as if he does not exist. His name, we called him Coach. His name was Kevin. And he lived a lot of years like that. Well, if you think about it in terms of us, that's our soul inside of us, watching us kind of live out of alignment with ourselves when we're so far away from ourselves. And it's yelling at us, can you not hear me? I can hear you talking about me as if I'm flawed. I can hear you blaming everything on me. Oh, I didn't mean that. That was just the other parts of me. No, it was you, right? That self, I can hear you speaking. So when you don't listen to your flags, when you don't pay attention, when you're so caught up in your stories, when you're creating a story, the best thing you can do is in the silence. Opening the heart to healing is a must, because you need your heart to be able to absorb what your mouth speaks. Because when your mouth speaks it and it goes to the heart, you can then feel it. But the opportunity comes in knowing that you don't have nothing to fear in being you. Other people may not like it, but you have nothing to fear in being you. But is my words kind? Is it something that is needed? Like, what am I speaking? And whenever I speak, I always say, move any of my ego aside. Move any parts of me that would have any desire to want to do anything. Take that, move it all aside. Bring me home to here. Let me trust this. You're always going to be human. You're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to have those moments. You're always going to do the thing, but it's the amount of time you spend beating yourself up. It's the amount of time that you spend in the regret. It's the amount of time that you want somebody else to be responsible. The more time you spend, like I spend at 5:30 in the morning, of bringing it home to you. What was happening within me that made me so fearful? Those are the things that we start to ask ourselves. So that enlightened, immutable being truly starts to know the soul self has these beautiful qualities, these thoughts and these feelings. And they're the ones that truly come when you feel like you're just like floating in air. They're freeing thoughts. They're the thoughts that are like childlike innocence. When you're walking along and all of a sudden you see a dragonfly and you go, oh, that's a dragonfly. I wonder what it looks like. I want to look at it. And you find yourself chasing a dragonfly. When you chase the golden sparkles, when you want to get down on your hands and knees and look into a fairy circle. But it's also the same voice that says, don't do that. Don't do that today. Don't behave like that. Walk away. Because it also has a pure intention. Not one to hurt you, to harm you. One that is your natural innate ability to always stay within what is the safest environment for you to stay in. And it's hard for us to connect to that sometimes. And so the soul and the self is the same in some ways, but very indifferent in many other ways, because the human self is conditioned. The soul self is not. It comes with one goal, one objective. And to never leave you until your human body leaves. And it takes a piece of you with it. It takes a piece of its human experience out of love, and they use it. And it's used for the highest good. It's used for the highest good. To be of service, to help the world to be a better place in time. So can your loved ones speak to you, communicate to you? Yes, of course. Do they need a human body? No. Are they always there? Yes. Are those goddesses out there still alive? Yes. Because they were women who walked up on earth at one time, who were dressed and adorned and dressed up to be enough in the world, to be created, to mold, to be a fear story, to be an inspiration story, or to be turned into something better than everyone else, something that could be created. But no one ever said that's who they ever were. And just like Mother Mary, just like the beautiful Mother Mary, who truly channels, there's about 20 pages. They're obviously not going to be all talked about. And so as we go into here today, what I'm going to give you to go into here is with this new moon energy in Aries. We have some fast, we have some changes, and you may not be someone who can work fast and change quickly and be able just to changes quickly. I want you to know that you're going to truly be able to let go of making such impulsive decisions, that it's okay to give yourself time to think through, but to be able to start to know that the stories that somebody else puts you in, that somebody else creates for you, that you have the opportunity to reject them or accept them. When you look back through the journey over this next week, you look back over the journeys through anything that feels like it's a hurt in you, a pain in you, and you start to see who created that story. Where did it come from? Was it my words? Was it my thoughts? Where did I get that? And is that my truth? And why am I telling myself this? What is my objective? How am I trying to manipulate myself? So it's about questioning yourself. Just really, truly be able to question yourself, to be able to bring it back to you. So with this new moon, set intentions that are not made under any pressure. So most new moons, I don't have an intention. I don't need a moon phase to give me an opportunity to heal, to have an intention. I wake up with one intention every single day, to be a better human than I was the day before. And that's the intention that I live by. But intentions are beautiful, just like goals. They're beautiful, but they help you inspire yourself. Don't set intentions that are to inspire others. Set intentions that are to inspire you. Because we so quickly want to take an opportunity to give it all away. And in this series, what you're here to do is to first bring it home to you so that you can feel it, so that you can feel you, so that you can connect to you, so that you can hear, so that you can speak, so that you can see without these human eyes. And not that, I'm not going to turn you all into clairvoyants. Not everybody's here to be that. There's a big difference in being a sensitive person, having the ability to be connected, and somebody who steps up to be this kind of work that I do. There's not always, it's about what it happens is that once you start to realize that there's so much more to you than that whole individual ability to see things with your eyes, is that you know that you can second guess yourself. You can ask another question to say, is this my truth? Is what I'm seeing really true? Is there something more going on here? It's like kids in the playground, right? It's like you see them all fighting, but are they really fighting or are they wrestling? And then the one teacher runs, but nobody was really fighting. They were all just playing around, but it was roughhousing. And if that teacher has a fear of fighting, if she's been protected her whole life and was told to run away from any loud noises, anyone talking real loud, and she gets all shut down, the one who was the real issue going into that was the woman who was reacting and responding out of the fact that she carries a fear story around hearing kids reacting, responding in a more aggressive way. Right? And so our eyes have the ability, and what we're hearing, what we're seeing, doesn't mean that it's always true. If you walk over and you go, hi, what are you kids all doing? What's happening here? And if there is a real fight, there will be the one kid who will say, those two are fighting. There'll be the one kid who wouldn't be able to tell a lie, right? If there's like that circle, or they'll be like, nothing, and you will have done your job because you will have broke up the situation, because then the minute you walk in, the energy changes. All you have to do in a healthy, healed self in your light is to walk in. And the moment you walk in, the energy changes. because everything that's working for us is then also working for everybody else. Yeah. Okay. Now I want you all to close your eyes. And I want you to take a deep breath in. And I want you to think about love for a moment with a desire and a conviction of when you were so determined to do something out of the word love. And think of what it cost you, what you got from it, and what you gained. And then I want you to breathe that all the way down to your sacral. Breathe it all the way down to below your belly button. And as you breathe it, I want you to let it go. Now I want you to breathe in a thought of where you wanted to see somebody be different, do different, or to fix everything. And breathe that in. And I want you to breathe that down to above the belly button, in between the rib cage. And as you do, hold it for 3. 1, 2, 3. And as you breathe out, you let go of any intention to want to do anything to, for the reason to better somebody else right now. This is about you. And as you breathe back in, we're going to breathe in a shorter breath just to the heart. And I want you to stop at the heart and hold it 1, 2, 3, and just let go. Let go of the attachment to your heart. And we're going to let the soul self, we're going to let the beautiful divine step in and hold our hearts. And as we feel the sense of almost like a bit of a cooling sensation first, and then it turns to warm. Wrap around your heart center. So this could be around the heart itself, could be on the sides, underneath the arms area, anywhere that encompasses. You may be feeling it could be in the back between the shoulder blades, anything that encompasses the heart. The energy of the heart area. And then we're going to call in the beautiful divine energy the amazing Mary Magdalene, a woman who was judged, a woman who was told, who we are told could also be possibly the Isis energy. Or sorry, the Lilith. The Lilith, Isis is obviously here. We'll bring her into, but not into your heart right now. We're going to move her into a new area. Mary Magdalene, also the Lilith energy. And in our heart, we're going to think of the, as you just bring your thought to the process of letting go of any attachments that you would have had made. And this will always be slow relief. It's not all going to release. It's not going to all happen today. But with time, that you're able to let go of those choices and decisions that you made out of fear. Or those ones that you really, truly didn't know which way to turn. And so you just jumped in and then discovered that it wasn't such a great choice you made. And then think of the ones that you made that you absolutely knew were right. And then we're going to hand it all. We're going to hand it all to the Mary Magdalene, to the Lilith energy. And as you breathe in and you breathe out, they're going to take this energy and they're bringing it back to the divine, lifting it up and away from the human essence and traveling it up traveling it up. And as they travel it up, it enters into spirit world. And as it does, it enters past Metatron, the energy of Metatron, wisdom. And that every one of those experiences, as they come back to you in divine timing, will come back to you as wisdom, as all-knowing, not know-it-all, just all-knowing wisdom of what you will need to know to help you in any way. And then we breathe back to the heart, and we breathe out. And then we're going to rise the energy. And as we rise this beautiful energy now we are heightening the energy, and we're turning up the frequency and bringing the energy up into the divine energy. And this is where Isis and Mother Mary will step in. The divine energy of the divine, powerful energy of crossing over the bridge into the thymus area, into the place where we become weak. And when we can find ourselves and allow ourselves to know that strength, the strongest thing we can do is allow ourselves to be weak, to let go, to ask for help, to know that we're going to have to witness and observe the world for all that it is. That we see at the very front and the back, as if there's two hands, one at the front, right on your thymus area, the other hand at the back, kind of at the back of the neck. And as you breathe in and breathe out, it's almost as if you feel the weight, you feel this weight, and you feel this sense of a violet flame starting to illuminate and light up. You don't have to see it. If you can't see it, don't worry about it. Just be present. Just be present with the flame. We want to do it all from right here, right now, right where we are. And as you breathe in and you breathe out, that flame rises, and it rises up through the throat chakra, up into the third eye. It enters past the jaw, where we clench our jaw, and you feel your jaw relaxing, letting go, up through behind the eyes, and where we hold all those memories and visions of these stored visions that we had seen. And we start to let them go, and into the third eye area, into the brain area. We enter in the flame into kind of right in the very center, and it hits this spot, right in where we have these amazing pituitary glands. And the violet flame starts to warm up all the connections between the nerves. I like to call them little tunnels. These little tunneled areas that connect the thymus, that open up the channels, that start to awaken the channels of being able to connect deeper into your soul self, to the God conscious light. And the violet flame starts to be able to transmute any of those mind cluttered up stories that we have. And we're not going to release them all, but we're going to start to feel the essence of freedom, liberty. For a moment, I want you to see the essence of, just say, Lady Liberty, standing in the water in her statue self, and her big purpose and her why. And with that, without any attachment to having to love anything or be attached to anything, the essence of empowerment. Empowerment. And let go of any definition, any thought of empowerment. We just want you to feel the energy that we're calling empowered. And with that, we want you to take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, feel your chest expand. Feel your shoulders come up. Pull your spine up. Keep breathing in and out with big breaths. Pull your spine up. Lift your chin. Feel your head almost as if your neck stretches up and out. And this is an opening. And as you let go of the breath, keep the shoulders back and up. Just let the breath go. And see if you can hold yourself as that breath leaves. And breathe back in again, and breathe to just the thymus. Hold the breath for 1, 2, 3, and then breathe out and just let it go. And feel the calm, feel the stretch, feel the expansion. This is the expansion of the mind. It's not closing and collapsing in this moment. It's just collapsing the old stories. It's leaving room for that consciousness or a connection. Now the violet flame has the room to be able to transmute any thoughts that you're ready to let go of that have held you entrapped in any old stories. And then just let your body relax and back down. Feel your spine collapsing down. Let your shoulders roll down. Let your chin drop. Let your belly out. Let your belly just relax. Just let it fall out. You're giving the body a break. Feel your body relaxed. And as it's being relaxed in a relaxed state, this is when the embodied light of the soul self really truly is able to travel through the body to help and send any light and healing where it needs to go. And as we're right here, right now, we ask for light to go to any of the places where you have shadowed over your truth, with no attachment to any words. We're in the new moon energy and in the powerful energy of masculine energy, which is what Metatron was bringing in for us. That we start to think of what are the things that we would do when nobody is looking. You might get a giggle with that one. And notice you'll feel some truth. Now we ask for you to set an intention, if you so choose, one of love for you, self-love, whatever you may be asking in this new moon. What is it you would love to see? What would you like to see come to fruition? What's important for you? And just let your soul self speak to you. It may sound ridiculous when you're hearing it back. It may sound like something you would never say. Just let it sit with you. And then take one last breath in. And as we do, we breathe that in and we set it, we let it go into the universe, and we breathe it out and breathe it out into the universe. And with that, the beautiful Mother Mary, Isis energy comes back and brings awareness back to the thymus. And as you've been away from focusing on your thymus, a beautiful healing upon the immune system, upon the hormones, the female hormones, the balance of the feminine and masculine, everything that is within us. Our primal instinctive self is starting to receive some healing. That we can learn the ability to trust, to be able to trust ourselves, to trust our choices, our decisions, our ability to be able to hear without our ears, and through our third eye, our ability to be able to see without our eyes, and to trust that our heart is healing so that when our mouth speaks and our words are coming out, that they're the most loving words they can be, for whatever it shall be. And then while we're in this last little moment, to whatever areas where the body does need to receive ultimate levels of healing, I ask of the beautiful Jesus energy to step in to send healing throughout the body. And Jesus was a healer who walked on earth. And we send healing and we wrap you from top to bottom, all the way around, energetically clearing out around the aura anything that's ready to release and bestow upon you to bring full awareness with your next breath Breathe in, and as you do, see yourself pulling in like an accordion, going all the way in. And then breathe out. You're going to let it all out, and we're going to send love out into the world for gratitude and love for what we received today. And breathe it out. And with that, we take one last little breath. We connect to our body, connect all the way back in. Give yourself a little wiggle. Feel your shoulders come back to its natural state. And you come back to the here and now. Back to the here and now. And back here with me in this very present moment. For you are all an everyday goddess. Finding and living within the truth within. And I hope that helped you in some way today. Does anyone have any questions or anything you want to ask? Any comments? We did go a few minutes over, but we can't rush a meditation. And so this healing works through us for a 7-day. Healing's usually about 7 days. So you may feel yourself like, what's going on? Why do I feel like little pings happening and stuff? That's energy, that shifts. What's happening is there's shifts happening within you. And so they're removing any blocks that you're ready for. Everything is in what is that you are ready for, what you're asking for, what your soul has, what your spirit self, your soul self has given permission for. And everything is slow release. Slow release coming back home, slow release coming in. No need to rush. Drink lots of water. There's detoxing goes with this. And stay present with you. And even after you process this a little bit or you watch it again, if you have any questions, do message me. They always knock you out. Yeah. And so if they're knocking you out and you find yourself being knocked out, you're still getting what you need. But they knock us out often because we're, it's like that's what the body needs. The body is so exhausted. Right? You've been fighting for a long time. If you've been battling your way through this life and trying to make things happen and just trying to do, the body is so exhausted. And so it just knocks us out and just lets us. Yeah, you can do this meditation a couple times if you want to. You can redo it. It's up to you. Take your time with it and then journal through. Journal through your experience this new moon. You can write something out today and go outside and burn it. Set it free if you want. Whatever feels like a good practice for you. I don't have set practice that, I'd say, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. I think, there's a lot of freedom to be given when you trust what it is that you need to do for you. Some people bury it in the sand, light a candle, and then bury the sand when June comes in, when the thaw, or when May comes in and the ground really thaws, they bury it then. Like, it's up to you. What feels right for you? And just set it free. I put flowers outside today. I took flowers that were still alive, but I used in a ceremony this weekend. And then I took the live flowers and put them out because they had expanded past their lifetime. The only thing keeping them alive was the water that we put them in. But here's one last thought for you. We have such a desire to want to have the flowers in our life, and we want that, and they want us to have it. We cut the flowers. So every time we cut the flowers from the root, the flowers die, right? It's like it's rooted, it's grounded, it's beautiful. We look at it, but that's not good enough. We want to take them home. So the flowers get cut. And then if you believe it to be dead, it's dead. And if you leave the flower out of water, it will die. But if you provide water for it, it expands its life. It can live longer. Right? So everything that you're providing and giving nutrients to in your thoughts, you're keeping it alive. Some things you've got to be ready to let it die. Other things you have to put into water and love it and keep it alive as long as we possibly can. Today, I knew the flowers had served its purpose. They were starting to die. It was time to let them go. I don't hang them upside down and dry them. I put them out and it snowed on them. They were done. They were done. And sometimes you just got to be done with things and let things die. You can always get new flowers. They will grow again. So today we're starting a journey of blossom and blooming into us that we start to nurture today. What are you going to start to nurture today that is beyond the the pain.